What would happen if you could stop worrying so much about what your team was doing all day and instead focus in on what you're supposed to be doing to move your business forward? Sounds like a dream, but right now you're living the nightmare of having to overcoach, over-handhold, and over-check in on your team's work. Let's put an end to that and instead roll out super clear 5-hour work plans, drum beats, and more of my signature tools that drive accountability and self-sufficiency deep into your team. All you have to do is join a Leadership Lab program, and I'll help you turn your team troubles into triumphs. You'll be learning and growing alongside some peers that will become valuable business friends. So why not go beyond this podcast and join us? It could be the smartest thing you do this year. Book a call with me and see what program would best fit you over at the website, stackingyourteam.com/programs. Hello, leader. As a small business owner, it can be incredibly frustrating when a team member is underperforming. You don't have an HR department or training department who can step in. No, it's up to you to notice and then take action on this outage before it grows into something even worse. So today, let's talk about the importance of uncovering whether it's a skill issue or a will issue when you have someone who isn't meeting your expectations in their role. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Shelli Warren. I'm so glad that you're taking me along with you as you go about your day. And hey, did you know that the team that got you here may not be the team that will get you there? This episode is sparked, well, as all episodes are, by conversations that happen inside the Leadership Lab small group coaching programs. It's a common dilemma that can pop up for one reason or another, and it's probably one of the most talked about topics with my clients, both the CEOs and their team members who are enrolled in the Team Leader program. You see, when people are not performing to standard and not meeting expectations, it becomes everyone's problem because undoubtedly their gaps are impacting the success of someone else on the team, right? We've got bottlenecks, rework, disappointments, and sometimes resentfulness can all appear as outcomes of only one person's underperforming behaviors. You can imagine how this can escalate into something massive if it's more than one team member having difficulty within their role. Now, both the CEOs that I coach and the team leaders that I coach all have one thing in common. They want this person to turn their performance around, and they know that there's nothing like the feeling you get when you can help someone achieve their goals. More leaders need to feel that because once you do, it will fuel your desire to continue to support and coach your team, even the most difficult of people. Uncovering the root cause, the main reason why someone is having difficulty in their role, isn't rocket science, but it does require a leader who notices the drift in performance and who will take the time to ask questions and offer support to figure out why. So here's the big question. Is it a skill issue or a will issue? Now, for each of these underpinning difficulties, I'm going to give you some examples of how this behavior and outlook can show up amongst your team. So look to see if any of them seem familiar to you, either with a specific person or a group of people. So is their underperformance a skill issue or a will issue? Here's what I mean by this. Sometimes the lack of skills and experience can be amplified, especially if this person is surrounded by high performers who are very competent, and therefore they can look like the weak link in the chain. Sometimes this person has taken on some new responsibilities that are stretching and they simply haven't had enough time in the role to master this new skill set. So training, demonstrations, and practice with various scenarios for problem solving, and then leaning hard into SOPs and training resources could definitely help them move forward faster. And sometimes it's the trainer who's lacking in their capability to teach and support. Now, I've reminded you here in the podcast before that not every subject matter expert, not every go-to person on the team, even if they are seasoned, are great at teaching others. Teaching is a skill set in itself, and the best trainers genuinely want to help others succeed because they get it that when the person succeeds, so do they. The best trainers can flip into different styles and methods of teaching in order to match the learning preferences of the student. Those trainers simply love teaching, and they find it very worthwhile to give it their all so that someone else can grow. And then sometimes the team member has exaggerated their level of competency, and it's suddenly become apparent that they really are not that skilled as they led you to believe. Now, this is a trust issue for sure, as you've now got to form a plan to redeploy the work, temporarily adjust their work plan to provide training, or move them into a different position. Or depending on the severity of the exaggeration, you may need to bless and release them from their employment with you. And then there are times when the person has hit a ceiling in terms of their competency. Now, this can happen when new processes, digital systems, and technology are introduced, or new methods to create efficiency are now expected, and there's a large learning curve for that team member. It can all be very overwhelming and concerning for both you and the team member. You could both be wondering if this is going to impact their long-term fit, if the learning curve can't be shortened and the skill development felt. Now, this can lead to having that difficult conversation about exiting their role with their dignity intact instead of requiring over-coaching and over-action planning to try and improve their mastery of these new requirements and responsibilities. So, if you determine that the underlying cause of this person's underperformance is not a skill issue, then we need to consider that it's likely a will issue. Here's what this can look like. If you've noticed a significant drift in someone's results, because results don't lie, it's time to look deeper into how this person thinks, acts, and feels at work, because it could be impacting how they perform. A few reasons why someone has a different outlook on their role can be things like this: striving for perfection. And when they don't hit their definition, they become defeated. And over time, they can convince themselves that they'll never really hit that mark, so why bother even to try? The other one is lack of motivation. This can be a new behavior whereby they used to be highly engaged and now they're not. It's so important to have good working relationships with your team members so that you can ask the tougher questions to understand why they've lost their motivation. Sometimes people lose their mojo because of peer-to-peer conflict, or they simply don't like their job anymore. If it's a peer conflict, it's your role as their leader to set the expectation that they will work it out amongst themselves promptly and first. And only if they can't resolve it would they then get you involved. You want to make it normal in your workplace for your team to become self-sufficient with confronting one another and working out their differences in a professional way that leads to even stronger working relationships. And if they've decided that they no longer want to work with you and they're holding on until something better comes along, they're likely not going to tell you that. This is where you've got to be clear with them that they need to meet the expectations of their role and seek to find new enthusiasm for the work. Often just talking about what is frustrating them or having them admit that they need additional support but have been afraid to ask for it can clear the air and breathe new life into their outlook about their work. And isolation is also a big factor in having someone lose their keenness. This is something that can be easily improved by ramping up the type of interactions you have with your team and the frequency, including the interactions that your team can have with each other without you. Another probable cause is poor communication or time management. Now, this can significantly undermine your team members' efforts, and it may not have started out so terribly, but it can quickly morph into a real problem for themselves and those around them. This can look like not showing up for meetings, not completing tasks on time, not asking for help, not updating peers on the progress of a task, or not doing a handoff so the other person is left waiting. Overwhelm is often the root cause of poor time management. That and poor planning, meaning they have a large workload and organizing their day and their calendar is a challenge for them. And not asking for or being given clarity to better understand timelines and priorities can also be a trigger that leads to mistakes, assumptions, that darn rework, and overrides on time and cost. So teaching best practices for time management for everyone on your team, and preferably by someone who actually role models these tools and systems, can really help close the gap for many people who have these challenges, but who might not be comfortable admitting it. For a lot of people, they can limp along unnoticed for a while if their workload is manageable. But the minute it's overloaded for a special project or a peer is off sick and they have to temporarily leverage their cross-training skills, there's a definite tilt, and planning and organization skills, or the lack of, can really break the momentum of their results. And then, of course, there's this underlining probability: health issues or home issues. Both of these can really take the wind out of your team member's sail. It's unfortunate when this happens because as their leader, you don't want to probe into their personal life. Yet when it's obvious that health or home issues are spilling over into the workplace, it's your duty to intervene and offer support. That support can look like readjusting their workload temporarily, and it can also look like providing them with referrals and connections for healthcare services and support. The goal is to help them get quality help to resolve these issues so they can feel better in their personal lives and at work. And here's a will problem that seems to be even more and more prevalent these days, right across the board. But you may have noticed it quicker with your younger team members. Here it is. They only want to do tasks that they want to do. This can look like continually forgetting to do something or shrugging their shoulders about it not being done. It can also look like dragging their feet on a task in hopes that someone else will do it. And they can even suggest that the tasks or group of tasks can be delegated to someone else. I've had clients whose younger team members have suggested that she hire interns to take over the tasks that they didn't want to do. This undoubtedly is alarming and begs the question as to whether this person is a long-term fit. It's a moment to reinforce with them that there's not a person on the planet who loves 100% of their role, and that in the world of business, there are necessary tasks that need to be done linked to everyone's role that each person may not 100% enjoy doing. And yet, if it wasn't required to be completed, it wouldn't be part of the role. I find this is an exercise in negotiation whereby even seasoned team members can have an inflated sense of importance and demand to let go of some of their tasks and ownership areas that no longer excite them. Now, I'm a fan of developing people and creating a team culture that outlines pathways to success for each role. Essentially, mapping out a way for everyone to see how they can move forward in their career, including compensation increases. But if someone is wanting to ditch ownership areas without a plan to teach and train others to take it over so that the standards are upheld in a way that enhances their career desires of a peer, it can simply feel like entitlement. We want to help our team members gain back their motivation so that they will do a great job every day because they want to and because they see the value in what they do every day and how it impacts someone else on the team or a client or a customer or the brand itself. So yes, there are definitely times when you want to reward a team member by redeploying lower valued tasks to another person. Or you might want to redeploy ownership of something to someone else who's craving it to help them move forward in their career. Both of those intentions and follow-through are what strategic leaders do in order to retain their high performers. However, removing tasks from someone who is simply complaining about something, or they tell you they'd rather not have to do those things for anything beyond something illegal or downright out of integrity, which I can't even believe I'm saying this because I know you would never ask someone to do something that you haven't already done a million times before and would again roll up your sleeves to pitch in if needed. It's this type of posturing, pushback, and attitude towards doing tasks that they seem to think is below them is a bright red flag blowing right in front of you. Notice it, take action on it, and reinforce the many tasks that you and others have done in order to move the business forward and provide exceptional service for your clients and customers. You want to reinforce the expectation and the importance of these tasks, even though they believe it's minimal. Tell them why it's not and why it's linked to their role in the first place. They need to hear how not following through on it will impact your viewpoint on their contribution. Having these types of conversations with your team members is a critical component of your role as a leader. It's likely not your favorite part of the role, but it is an important one. Asking the right questions and creating a space where it feels safe for your team members to tell you truthfully what's going on is the start of turning this all around. Don't assume you know, and don't be influenced by speculation of other members on your leadership team or members of your extended team who have come to complain to you about this person. Go to the source. Host an adult conversation that includes genuinely wanting to help this person succeed, even if it means that they tell you they're going to self-select out and quit. Even if they tell you that the role is too much for them right now because of a health or home challenge. Even if they're unwilling to admit that there is a problem. And even if they don't initially take ownership of their performance gaps. Keep coaching them. Keep offering more training resources, and at the same time, give them dates to work towards that you expect to see a significant improvement in their results. And if you want some help finding the right words and phrases to help facilitate these kind of workplace adult coaching conversations, you can pop over to the website and get your Ask Shelli script bundles. And by the way, we've priced them ridiculously low so that more women who lead feel more confident doing it, because I know hard is harder than ever right now. One of my superpowers is knowing what to say in delicate situations, and we've created bundles of scripts to help you build this skill too. and increase your confidence when you walk into those tough conversations. So get your Ask Shelli script bundles at the website or with the link that's included in the episode description. We have even more bundles coming, so be sure to get on the newsletter list so that you know every time a new bundle is available for you. So as we close out today's episode, here's a few steps to take action on what you just learned today about whether or not a team member's performance issue is a skill issue or a will issue. Number 1, look for signs and symptoms as to whether the root cause is a skill issue, and then take action to help your team member boost that skill set. Be prepared that if they can't close the gap within a reasonable time, you'll have to consider the next step in your termination process. Number 2, look for signs and symptoms that the root cause is a will issue, and then do the same. Take action to host coaching conversations to find out why your team member has lost their mojo at work. Be ready to listen. You might not hear what you want to hear, but it's absolutely necessary to hear it if you want to help them move forward and take ownership of how they're thinking and feeling about their role. Once again, you'll need to be prepared for them to openly commit to quitting, and you might also need to go deeper into setting expectations for them to recommit to their role, including the tasks that they don't 100% enjoy doing if they're going to remain employed with you. And number 3, don't assume that you know why there's a drift in their performance. Instead, make the time to speak with your team member to find out through their own words what's going on, and then together decide the next best steps to take. The key outcome here is that they would take ownership of their gaps in performance and take ownership of their action plan to turn it all around. And number 4, be sure to get your Ask Shelli script bundles so that you never have to walk into one of these conversations worried about what you'll say or how you'll say it. You know, leadership can be exciting, challenging, and lonely at times. So don't go it alone. Let me help you create the team and the leadership structure that you've been craving. So until next time, remember, if you have a dream, you need a team. Let's get stacking yours today.